as Titan sped off and I rushed towards him at full pace, giving it everything I had. I could feel the vibration of the massive chainsaw in my grasp, the wind kicking off of the blades as they spun rapidly. The horsepower behind the rocket sword far exceeded what my handheld blades were pushing, and the chain itself was massive, both in weight, horsepower, and overall destructive capability. This was the max. If this wouldn't kill him, nothing I had would. The jets attached to the blade kicking off, spitting out heat and wind, adjusting to my movements to keep the blade aloft as I closed the distance between us. He was just managing to pull himself back to his feet from that reeling blow. I pulled to the left, and with a massive sweeping motion, reeled the blade all the way around in a circle, going for maximum impact, throttling the blade as hard as it would push, the force of the swing cutting through the air, leaving a wake of wind and heat behind it as the blade spun in his direction. But he was too quick. He saw it coming and at the last second ducked under it, rolling across the ground, taking a dive, grinding across the asphalt of the parking lot a bit as he rolled under it. My blade swing kept going though. It missed him, but the car behind him was not so fortunate. Pieces of steel, metal, fiberglass, and regular glass flew out wildly as the blade tore its way through the car in seconds. By the time it passed through, the top end of the car had separated from the bottom half. There were sparks and fire and all sorts of lubricating fluids dripping on the ground beneath the vehicle as the entire thing caught fire. Slippery bastard, I thought to myself as I started rushing at him again. And this was the problem with the rocket sword. It was exceptionally dangerous, yes, powerful enough to cut through basically anything, but there's a trade-off for that power. The immense size of the blade means my movements are slower. I can only swing it in specific ways, making it much more predictable, easier to dodge. If you have the wherewithal to not be frightened, the decrease in speed and maneuverability is enough that a small, quick enough target can basically keep themselves out of danger, which only added to the problem that the rocket sword itself had a limited time span. I wouldn't be able to use it forever. Eventually, it would reach its maximum capacity for use. The jets that keep it aloft would start overheating, and without those jets keeping it up, this thing literally weighed a ton. There was no way I could lift it and swing it around by myself. I simply didn't have the muscle power for it. I had to finish this quick. I needed a hit. I began rushing in on him again, trying for another sweep of the blade. But before I could reach him, he raised that twisted arm of his with the gun melded into it. Once again, another problem with the blade. As long as I'm holding this massive thing, I can't move and dodge like I would normally. My movements are way too limited. Thinking quick, I lowered the blade, digging it into the asphalt of the parking lot, tearing it up in chunks and pieces, all of them flying up in his direction, which gave me a bit of cover, you might call it. Made it difficult to draw a steady beat, not forever, but for long enough that by the time he fired, I had managed to move the blade into the path of the shot, ducking just under it, the blade now carved into the cement, acting like a barricade between me and the bullets. Damn it. Titan, I can use some backup here," I called out, still ducking under the giant sword, the hum of the energy core powering it, still vibrating it slightly. And that's when Titan rolled by again. She no longer had access to her side-mounted blades, as they were currently functioning as the main drive chains for moving her. But in the wake as she passed, countless small circular orbs dropped out of the rear section of her frame. "Don't worry so much. I got this," I heard Titan's voice exclaim in my head. "I unfortunately won't be able to keep doing this, so I suggest you pick your moment." "What in the world? Pathetic," that silver monstrosity said, looking down at the small silver orbs on the ground. "What are these supposed to be? Distraction?" he said as he lifted his foot, ready to step on one. And suddenly, 6 spider-like legs protruded from the side, and a bright blinking light began to emit from all of them, and he suddenly found himself surrounded by these tiny spider-like spheres. "What the hell?" he exclaimed, pointing his gun arm down for a moment, firing at the one nearest to him. Yeah, that was a bad idea. It immediately detonated, sending an explosion of concrete, fire, and smoke out. He reeled back several feet, bouncing off of the concrete, before finally finding his way back to his feet, digging his single formed hand into the concrete, carving grooves into it. It didn't kill him, but it definitely sent him for a loop. He was a bit dazed and shook his head for a moment as he looked up to see a swarm of them heading right for him. "Damn you! You will not deny me Mother's grace," he said, raising the mangled arm with the gun affixed in it, beginning to fire out at the small, spider-like spheres, rapidly skittering in his direction. However, they were pretty fast and agile. Thanks to those upgrades, they were very nimble, and their size made them exceptionally hard to hit. "Damn it!" he shouted as he started backing away, firing at them one after another. Another shot, and another. Finally, he managed to hit one, creating an explosion, not close enough to harm him, but sending debris scattering out, smoke in its wake. They were coming too fast and he couldn't hit them all. He growled furiously, finally figuring out that shooting them like that wasn't going to work. He took off running, trying to gain some distance. It was at that point that I pulled the rocket sword out of the cement ground below me, spinning its blades back to life and tearing the concrete and cement surrounding it away. "Okay, second chance. Em, get ready for a second shot. Keep your eyes on him, just in case those bots run out before I find a good moment. I might need you to be the final diversion. And Titan, you're my fallback. If I fail to hit again, I might be wide open, and at far too close a range to effectively dodge. If that happens, I'm basically screwed. The only thing that's gonna save me is if you send him for another loop, so we can try to play this game again. Only without the benefit of the spiders, which will only make it more difficult. So, we have to get it done now. Everyone clear on their roles? Don't worry about it. This guy thinks he's untouchable. He's not even trying to stay hidden from my shots," Emily exclaimed. "Trust me, I'll hit him." "Don't concern yourself," Titan replied. "Under no circumstances will I allow my user to fall. Your life is quintessential to my existence. It will be preserved. Well, thanks for the ringing endorsement, Titan. So, let's see if I can get a home run, I said, taking off back in his direction, as he was still running, trying to fight the spiders off, keep his distance so they couldn't get close, still firing at them wildly. He figured out that trying to take aimed shots wasn't going to work, so now he was just firing with reckless abandon, going for lucky shots.